So, welcome everyone. Tonight I'd like to give a talk on the functions of attention and the difference between attention and awareness. And I would also like to indicate that when we can understand these two qualities of mind and understand their differences, it can facilitate our meditation practices more skillfully and effectively. So I'd like to begin with a story, first of all, and this is from Joko Beck. And it's an old Zen story. A student said to Master Ichu, "Please write for me something of great wisdom." Master Ichu picked up his brush and wrote one word: attention. The student said, "Is that all?" The master wrote, "Attention, attention." The student became irritable. "That doesn't seem profound or subtle to me." In response, Master Ichu wrote simply, "Attention, attention, attention." In frustration, the student demanded, "What does this word attention mean?" And Master Ichu replied, "Attention means attention." Simply that. So much of the Buddhist teachings is about cultivating attention and awareness. And we know that the factors of the Eightfold Path that relate to meditation involve right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And of course, concentration is called samadhi in Buddhist language. Samadhi means the bringing together of attention and placing it in one spot, like gathering in of attention and putting it in one spot. And mindfulness, of course, we've all heard of mindfulness, and there's many different definitions. One that I like, or one description that I like, is remembering to be attentive to immediate experience with care and discernment, because that particular description involves the context of the Eightfold Path. But again, it involves attention. Having thought a lot, read about and contemplated and practiced and understood, I think, to some degree, the differences between attention and awareness, I would prefer to talk about mindfulness as remembering to be attentive and aware to immediate experience with care and discernment. So I've recently returned from a 5-week retreat where I spent up in the Forest Retreat Centre. It was great. I sat there. I sat probably between 6 and 8 hours a day, and the rest of the time I cooked my meals and washed up and cleaned up and went for walks, which was a meditation as well, and rode my bicycle. And I read a book. It was great. And I followed the instructions on the book. This is called, it was a book by Culadasa. It's called The Mind Illuminated. And essentially he takes us through the cultivation of attention and awareness so that we reach states of attentional stability, otherwise known as samadhi, or otherwise known as shamatha or samatha. So I'll get to more details about what he spoke about, what he wrote about, and I found what he wrote about was profoundly helpful. He explained the differences between attention and awareness. And I've been studying Buddhist meditation for 44 years or 45 years, something like that. And it's been training in awareness and attention, but I've never really clearly seen in the Buddhist teachings a distinction between what awareness is and what attention is. But I know in psychology, in neuropsychology and cognitive psychology, they do differentiate, and they've made some explanations about attention. So William James, many of you may know, was a philosopher and a forefather of modern psychology. He was around at the turn of the last century, sort of about 120 years ago. And according to James, I mean, he did some amazing work on consciousness and talked about consciousness. Many of you may know this. So he wrote, "Everyone knows what attention is. It is taking possession of the mind in clear and vivid form of one out of which seems several simultaneously possible objects or trains of thought. Focalization, concentration of consciousness are at its essence. It implies withdrawal from some things in order to deal effectively with others." So that kind of description or definition of attention is pretty good. It's held through up until now with the development of neuropsychology and so on. And the way neuropsychology talk about it, or neuropsychologists talk about it, is that it is a way of filtering out sensations, information, and perceptions that are not important or relevant to us and at that moment, and instead being able to focus our mental energy on what is important and relevant. So what happens in life, you're probably aware of this, we've got a lot of stimuli coming in to our consciousness. So much information that we just can't make sense of it. So attention is this faculty or this quality that enables us to make meaning out of all this information, enables us to filter out what's not relevant or important, and be able to focus in on something so that it can make sense. So attention is a way for us to process bite-sized chunks of information in effective ways. And it's involved in everything we do, from learning a new skill to regulating our emotions. We need attention. And it's so complex that the scientists have divided it up into systems. And they talk about 3 systems of attention. The 3 systems that I heard anyway. So the first system is called the orienting system. And this system works like a torch that we shine on something. So attention here is like a torch. We orient our attention to something and we shine our awareness on it, or our attention on it, sorry, and it illuminates what we're looking at or what we're focusing at. So that's one system. Another system, it gives us privileged processing of the specific information that we're looking at or we're honing in on. The information that's illuminated by the torch of our attention. Another system is called the alerting system. And this is kind of like, the neuropsychologists describe it like a flashing amber light. It's like, be alert, be on the lookout for something. You're not sure what it is, but you're on the lookout for it. So Culadasa talks about attention as scanning. So it's like we're constantly scanning for something that's relevant and important for us. So this alerting system is like that. Sometimes the alerting system will bring into attention something that's quite dangerous. Other times it might bring into attention something that's quite interesting for us or relevant for us, or something we're craving for. It's like our attention scans and it captures our attention if it's interesting. And if we're craving something, well, our attention is scanning for what we desire, and if it comes into our consciousness, we will go after it and we'll be hijacked by it. Our attention will be captured by it. So another system is, excuse me, another system is the executive control system. And this system is about ensuring that we are attentive to what's important and relevant, and everything goes according to plan. The neuropsychologist that I've listened to talk about this, Amishi Jha is her name, she talked about this as like the juggler. There's a lot of information coming in and we're focusing our attention on many things, and it's about juggling and balancing all that information. So they're the three systems, and we need them to survive, to thrive, to connect, to be in life, to function in life. We need all those systems, and they're evolutionarily, they've evolved with evolution for us to survive, connect, thrive, and be and learn and do all the things we do as humans. And of course, they can be dysfunctional, they can be unbalanced, or they can be problematic. The orienting system, a problematic demonstration of the orienting system, which is where we focus on something and hone into the subtleties and the nuances of a particular thing, we analyse something, could be as an example of when we're hijacked by rumination or worry. It's like we orient ourselves to something that's we don't need to orient to. Like it becomes exaggerated and it becomes dysfunctional. Has anybody ever worried about anything in here, or ruminated about something, or been possessed by a particular train of thought obsession that you can't get out of your mind? That's when the orienting system's kind of dysfunctional. The alerting system, of course, can be dysfunctional as well. And as a clinical psychologist, I know that many people I see are suffering with something called post-traumatic stress. And with those people, as we're aware, they're hyper alert, they're hyper vigilant, they're on the lookout for danger, and their alerting system is on overdrive. And they're picking up all sorts of things they need not pay attention to. They're revved up. So this can be problematic. And the executive control system can also be problematic, and it's like, say, when we have our attention deficit problems happening, like attention deficit disorder that we all have a little bit of, when our minds are going all over the place, it's like we're being attentive to too many things. We're not making discerning choices, or we're not able to juggle all that information, if that makes sense. And so these three systems you can think about with meditation as well. Like a standard mindfulness of breath meditation, where we choose an object, like an object to focus on. The choice and bring our attention, say, to the breath, if our object of meditation is the breath, that's orienting. We orient our attention to the breath. It's like we illuminate the experience of the breath wherever we're experiencing it. The alerting system need not be in overdrive, but it may mean that we're starting to notice things. We notice how various thoughts are coming in and drawing our attention away, and we're aware of different things that are happening in our mind and in our body. And the executive control system, say with mindfulness of breath, is about noticing if you've chosen to practice a shamatha meditation or a serenity meditation where you're focusing on a particular object such as the breath, you'll notice the mind goes off, and you gently and kindly and rejoice in noticing that. That's an awake moment, so rejoice in it. then you bring it back. So that bringing back, that noticing and that bringing back, the noticing is the alerting system, and the bringing back is the executive control. It's like making decisions. Executive control is like executives in a company. They make decisions about things and order things around. So, so with meditation, we're enhancing these systems. We're cultivating attention and awareness. And with meditation, I mentioned before that we're cultivating awareness and attention in the service of cultivating concentration or samadhi and mindfulness. So on this retreat, reading this book, I was moved by the way Culadasa explained the differences between attention and awareness, which he called peripheral awareness. And these are the differences that he's got a little kind of table for the differences, and I'll just read you out some of the differences. Actually, before I do that, I'll give an example of how he explains the difference between attention and awareness through his example. And he said, one way you can understand this is like a visual field. If we're thinking about a visual field, you may be focusing on me, for example. I can see everyone in this room is looking at me, so I'm getting your attention. And that's the center of your focus. You are also aware, however, of the windows at the side of the room. Even though you're not looking at them, you're also aware of the ceiling. You're also aware of other things in your visual field. They're in the peripheral of your awareness, but you're not focusing on them. So those things in the periphery is like your awareness. What you're focusing on is what you're attentive to, or your attention. So if something moved, for example, say if someone walked in the door and you picked it up in your peripheral awareness, you could direct your attention to it, like with a torch, to investigate it, to analyze it, to see what it is. And then that would be the focus of your attention, and I would be in the peripheral of your awareness. Does that make sense? So if you want to expand that idea of the visual field out to all the senses, including the mind, it's like what we attend to is what we're focusing on. And we can be aware of things in the peripheral of our awareness, and if they're important and relevant to us, like our awareness is scanning this and serving us, it's not dominating our attention, but it'll alert us to something, then we shift our attention to that and we pay attention to that. So Culadasa talks about peripheral awareness as being more holistic, relational, and contextual, whereas attention isolates and analyzes. Like I'm looking at John right now, I'm seeing he's got a checkered shirt and he's wearing glasses, and he's a little bit about my age, and so on and so forth. So I'm noticing that, and I'm aware of other things happening, but I'm focusing my attention on you. I'm also aware that you're in a room. You're in the Kuan Yin Centre. I'm aware of that. That's on the periphery. That's giving me the context of my focus. So I'm aware of this, and it's important that awareness and attention work together. So awareness, or peripheral awareness, filters out incoming information, whereas attention selects information from awareness. Okay? Peripheral awareness acts as a watchful alert system. I'm sitting here, there's somebody jumped in the window. it tells me. My peripheral vision and also my peripheral awareness would pick that up, and I'd focus on that. And attention hones in on the object. Peripheral awareness, there's less processing but a quicker response. With attention, there's more processing and a slower response. With awareness, it tends to be less personal and more objective. We don't sort of analyse it in relationship to what we call ourselves so much. Whereas with attention, it's all about me. How is this related to me? How is this important to me? How is this relevant for me? So it's more self-centered. And both awareness and attention can be introspective, and he calls it extrospective. I don't know if that's a word or not. In other words, it can be related to internal thoughts, feelings, sensations, and so on, as well as things that are happening out, what seems out there in the world. Make sense? Yeah. So I found this distinction very, very helpful. When I went on the retreat, I thought that I would go on the retreat and cultivate samadhi. I thought that would be my practice. And I started reading the book, and I thought, well, I'll just do mindfulness of breath, but that's probably my samadhi is, practiced mindfulness of breath for many years, and at first I found it very difficult, but in the last, say, 20 years, it's been my mainstay. Mindfulness of breath, it's really quite good. So I decided to practice mindfulness of breath, and I'm sitting in the Forest Retreat Centre, and I heard some sounds, and I heard all sorts of things happening, and my attention would go to that. And I started to realise what happens with attention is that it's sort of when I'm not focusing my attention, or when I'm not in samadhi, what will happen is my attention will scan for things, scan for relevant things, and this is one way it moves. It kind of moves around. Another thing that happens is that it gets captured by things. It could be captured by, or hijacked, if you want to say. It could be hijacked by a particular thought about something, or an issue, or a sound, or a train of thought. The other thing it does, and this is what I was getting to when I was explaining that I was sitting in the forest and my attention would go off. Sometimes it will alternate between something. You'll start with mindfulness of breath, and it'll alternate to the bush sounds or something in the sounds, or you might be reminded of something that's happening at work, and you start thinking about work and so on. And then you realise, and it's really important for you, you want to stay with it, but then you realise you should be with the breath, so you come back to the breath, but then it'll go back to that. It sort of goes backwards and forwards. And I could see that if I could get clear on this attention and peripheral awareness thing, it would be really helpful. So I just want to ask a question. Does anybody here have monkey mind? You know what I mean by monkey mind? Like it jumps from one thing to the next. Yeah? Sometimes. How about wandering mind when you meditate? Yeah, wandering mind's like this. You have a thought and it goes on to another thought and goes on to another thought, and it just kind of keeps traversing around. What about, is it ever captured and stolen and hijacked by craving? Where did the laughter come from? Oh, down there. Hello. Oh, hello. So, hijacked by craving. Yep.
Especially when you've got dessert waiting for you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So it's obsessive desires. And do you ever get have any resentments coming up like feeling niggly and frustrated with something. Yeah. So, aversion. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no. So did I hear? So I'm looking down there. I'm looking down there because that's where the screen is for me, but the camera's there. So, the other one is restlessness. Do you ever have a scattered mind? Yeah? A scattered mind means kind of all over the place. Restless mind means, sometimes people talk about it as remorse and regret and guilt and worry about things we've done at other times, like going over things, ruminating and worrying. Other times it's just this kind of fragmented, scattered mind. And the other one I want to ask is, does anybody ever have chronic procrastination or paralysing uncertainty? Never. Yeah. Okay, so I've just gone through the 5 hindrances, and some ways we can work with the 5 hindrances is by developing an understanding of attention and peripheral awareness, and also the jhanic factors, which I'll give a talk about when I do a retreat on the 15th of August. So the way this works, what I discovered with this distinction between attention and awareness works is that when you start to do a meditation, you make an intention that you are going to, say, follow the breath. At the beginning of that meditation, you also think about and reflect on difficulties you've had in previous meditations, like when the hindrances have arisen, when your mind's been scattered or it hasn't done what you want it to do. And then you make a plan of how you're going to deal with that. So you're setting an intention for what you're going to be attentive to. You also alerting in your mind what to be aware of, so that so you can keep on track. You're alerting in your mind about the problems that have happened before, like such as when you've been hijacked by sensual desire, which is the first hindrance, or feeling churned up by aversion or hatred or ill will or resentment. And so, beg your pardon? Sleepiness is another one. Yeah, I didn't mention dullness, did I? Mental dullness. I didn't go through that third hindrance. Mental dullness is another thing. If you can alert yourself at the beginning of the meditation about these issues, then you're starting to set up your peripheral awareness for when they arise. And so then you meditate. You're meditating away. You're focusing on the breath. You're following your intention. And you'll notice that your mind wanders. If you set that intention from the beginning, peripheral awareness will pick it up and alert you to it, and you'll come back to the breath. And peripheral awareness will also be on the lookout for when the hindrances start to show their face or show their appearance. And it'll alert you to it, you'll bring your attention to it, you'll note it, and you remember your strategy for dealing with it, and you come back to the breath. And one experience I had on the retreat was really quite, it was great, because I just got this. And I just want to ask you, does ever anybody here have a problem with ticking clocks or dripping taps when they meditate? Yep. I heard some yeps. I used to have real problems with it. Real problems. You know, I used to get out so much that I'd take a clock into another room, and I still do this sometimes. And I'd shut all the doors around the tap, you know, or tighten it up, or even turn the tap off at the source. So when you can make an intention that, say, you're going to make, say, mindfulness of breath the focus of your attention, like the object of your attention, what happens then is if you're doing that and you start to hear a dripping tap or a ticking clock or anything else for that matter, you can just say, that's in the peripheral of my awareness, I'm aware of that, but I've chosen to focus on this. So you can be aware of the dripping tap simultaneously as being attentive to the breath. So that you're shining your torch on the breath, you're focusing on it, you're seeing all the nuances of it and the subtleties of it, and you're going deeper and deeper into this experience, becoming absorbed into it, at the same time as maintaining a peripheral awareness, a 360 degrees open awareness of everything that's going on, in everything that's coming into consciousness. And it enhances your practice. You can do it. I used to think it had to be exclusive. I used to think you have to exclude all those distractions in order to focus on this. But in this case, you don't. It's about all-encompassing and complete. And this is the way. I discovered this when I was in the forest, and I was just sitting there. I mean, I've realised it at other times, but it became really clear because there was things happening in the forest. I think someone was using a chainsaw and doing some building down the road, and I could hear it, and I thought, here it is, the old chainsaw scene, at the retreat centre. Somebody's doing building, bang, 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 chainsaw, etc. And I was aware of it, but I noticed that I could simultaneously focus really clearly on the breath and track it, and my attention could become absorbed in it. So that was a profound moment for me, and it was a real a moment of freedom. Because I realised you can meditate anywhere. Busy street, noisy situation. As long as you make your intention and you follow through with your intention, you can see the differences between attention and awareness. So, have I gone over time, or I don't know what time we started?
I thought we would stop by 20 to 9.
Okay, well, we'll stop now. So I hope, thank you very much for bringing attention and awareness to the talk. It's been lovely talking with you. Actually, I've been talking at you. Hope we have a chance to talk with you in a moment. And if you guys want to unmute, we can have a bit of a discussion. So, thank you very much. And I just remind you that the aim of meditation and the aim of the whole path is to be able to release and let go of the unwholesome and unhelpful, and enhance and cultivate the helpful. So thanks very much.